Oh, I know how this goes. Next thing you're going to want from me is lottery numbers, right? Is that it? Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Nostradamus's daily shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates where you found this. And where you found yesterday afternoon's news was on yesterday morning's daily shot, because I correctly and not all that impressively predicted that Mike Sullivan would discard P.O. Joseph in the name of Dmitry Kulikov. And that's exactly the way it played out at practice. And that's not surprising, but it is disappointing. I keep waiting for some sign that this head coach will say, you know what? We've gone too far. We've gone too far. I've been loyal to these guys. I've stuck by them through thick and thin, through minus after minus after minus. And I'm sorry, I've had enough. I'm going to put what's important for the team ahead of worrying about hurting the feelings of either Jeff Carter or Brian Dumoulin. And in this case, obviously, Dumoulin is the one who comes into play. Kulikov is a real live, goal-preventing, shot-stifling National Hockey League defenseman who still has his legs. Dumoulin, when he had his legs, was all of those things. Dumoulin isn't those things anymore. He's not. He's just not. He continues to be an opening that the opponents exploit night after night after night. So Ron Hextall goes and acquires Kulikov, who might be a pretty nice value acquisition when you factor in that Kulikov was worn down, I mean beaten down, by having to be the top pairing guy on what might be the worst defensive team in this generation that anyone's seen, meaning those Ducks. And maybe, just maybe, when the Penguins went through their line rushes yesterday and Kulikov showed up on the third pairing with Jan Rutta, we could be looking at something that is temporary, that's something that just allows Kulikov to get comfortable with the way Sullivan and Todd Reardon would like him to play, to get used to their system, to get used to their breakouts, to get used to when the forwards would like the breakout passes and where and all that other stuff. And then they'll put him maybe next to Letang, drop Dumoulin down to depth chart, or even drop him, out of the lineup. But don't hold your breath. Because when the easy option is there for this coach, and by extension, this management, they're going to take it, meaning the easy internal/cultural option. P.O. Joseph was the youngest. P.O. Joseph was the newest. P.O. Joseph hadn't been particularly great of late, but he's still been significantly better than Dumoulin has. Doesn't matter. P.O. is the one to go. He'll be a healthy scratch tonight against the Blue Jackets. And that, my friends, is wrong on so many levels that I don't even know where to begin listing them. I like Kulikov, always have. He's not going to be any super splashy player for you. He'll join the rush, but he'll join it more as a supporting point than someone who's going to lead the attack. More than anything, he's your guy in the back end who will help kind of quiet things down. If you want to compare him to somebody, Rutta's probably the one, at least the closest one, meaning, that would be an easy example for me to cite that everyone's looking at on a regular basis. If he doesn't like what he sees, he's going to go off the window and out. If he's got a choice between an offensive contribution and a defensive contribution, he's going to take the latter 100 times out of 100. That's okay. This team blows leads. This team doesn't have, as we've seen, situational guys. And you know what I'm talking about. The first minute of a game, the last minute of a period. When you want to throw somebody onto the rink who can really take care of business and just get you to the room with whatever the current score happens to be, you don't have those guys. You do have Dumoulin, who ends up being on the rink for a big chunk of those goals. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Gotta keep the vibe intact. Gotta keep the... Here's some of what Kulikov had to say yesterday at PPG Paints Arena after practice regarding what he can bring.
Work hard and try to play the game the right way, and don't cheat and make plays when they're there. Make simple plays when I have to. Play hard on defense. Also be part of the offense, of course, because I believe that it's a five-man game, and when you're defending, all five should defend, and when you're on offense, all five guys should be on offense. And if you're a defenseman, it doesn't mean that you just stay at the blue line and just let the forwards do all the work. You got to help out too.
Again, it sounds like everything they need, right? Everything. But imagine if they were actually putting the best lineup onto the ice. Imagine how much of a difference he'd make if he were coming in and bumping Dumoulin from the lineup. Think about that. Don't let them off on this stuff. It's not okay. It is not okay to be throwing away 2 or 3 of the final years of Sidney Crosby because you're worried about hurting the feelings of a Carter or a Dumoulin or even a bleeping Brock McGinn. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Doug McKinney, who asks, DK, does this team, as currently constructed, have a potentially effective shutdown forward line to deploy against opponents' top lines? Sure seems like Ron Hextall thinks that better defensemen are enough to do the job, despite Sullivan's insistence that defending is the job of all the skaters on the ice. Well, to start, Sullivan's insistence, as you called it, is completely accurate. It is the job of all 5 skaters on the rink to defend. It's the job of all 5 equally, I'll go ahead and add, to defend. You're not going to see any team succeed by just relying on the 2 guys in the back to take care of business, but you will never see that team succeed whenever those defensemen aren't just encouraged, aren't just urged, but are instructed to pinch at every opportunity. The forwards not only can come back, the forwards have to come back. Your question, though, that's a lot tougher. That's a lot tougher. Because while it's easy on one hand to say, all right, make yourself a 4th line of Nick Bonino, Josh Archibald, and Ryan Poehling. All right? That sounds like, hey, here's your defensive line. Bonino has experience as being the shutdown type of center. He takes pride in it. He talks about it openly. When he was in Pittsburgh, we don't think of him that way because he was between Carl Hagelin and Phil Kessel, so he had these 2 blazing fast guys around him, and they, of course, scored their share of goals, as did, you might remember, Bonino himself. But is he a guy that you could put out there, let's say, and assign him to chase Patrice Bergeron around or to just be out there against the Bergeron line? This coach doesn't do that. He tends to view matchup like that as an opportunity to have the Sidney Crosby line out there against another team's line that might not defend as hard. Never mind the total lack of logic in doing it against Bergeron, since I just happened to pull out that example out of nowhere. Probably not the best I could offer, huh? I would like to think that they do. I would like to think, to bring back the subject of situational hockey, that you could get through the final minute of a period if you know that it's a real problem. If you've seen that it's a real problem, it's okay. It's not embarrassing to react to it in kind, to say, hey, listen, Sid, Gino, just sit down here for the last minute, okay? Sit down. We need to get to the locker room with that score exactly what it is. And you put 5 boring dudes on the rink and say, do absolutely nothing. Pick up the puck and stick it in your mouth. Have no mercy for any kind of hockey event taking place in this final minute. But he won't do that either. He just won't. So we can come up with a line, me and you. I think I just kind of did. I wouldn't mind that group. I just don't think they'll be deployed that way. I appreciate the question. I apologize if it detoured a little bit, but that's just kind of where it went. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. I'll be covering the game tonight for DK Pittsburgh Sports. Hope you can check out my written column on that after the game. We'll do one of these shows tomorrow.